Ladies and gentlemen, it is a privilege to introduce to you our keynote speaker this afternoon. I am sure that all of you already recognize him, and he certainly needs no introduction, because we would regularly see him on television being a prominent political figure today. However, more than that, I consider it a privilege, a big privilege, to be able to introduce to you one of the very few national leaders that my generation admires and look up to. Allow me to enumerate why. Number one, his knowledge of Philippine history is remarkable. If our national leaders of today really cared about this country, then shouldn't they care enough to at least learn about its past? Our speaker's knowledge of Philippine history shined in the debates of the presidential elections in 2010. And I would always learn new things about our proud past every time I hear him talk. Doesn't this tell us how passionate this man is about our country? Number two, he is the father of volunteerism. He was responsible for inspiring thousands of volunteers to make Subic work. Today, Subic continues to be the engine of growth for Central Luzon, employing more than 200,000 Filipinos. No other national leader has inspired people to volunteer and offer their talents in the achievement of a greater cause in the same magnitude. Number three, if you've been to Olongapo, you will notice that the brand of discipline there is different compared to most areas in the country. Traffic rules are followed and the environment is generally clean. The police are respected because photo is not tolerated, and because of this, people are proud of their city and are more than willing to fulfill their obligations as citizens. I noticed this firsthand during my childhood when I would spend my vacation with my grandfather, who used to work as an electrician in the US Naval Base. I remember going to the public market with him, where we would sometimes take our meals, and would notice the stark contrast of the typical markets in the country. My grandparents always reminded me not to throw trash anywhere. I didn't know them, but a young mayor named Richard Gordon was responsible for this behavior. He was not only promoting cleanliness, but more than that, he was teaching us to be responsible citizens. Number four, Senator Gordon was present in all the relief efforts for all the calamities that hit this country. This is the reason why we have invited him today. I believe that his insights will prove invaluable to us, being supply management practitioners in today's era of climate change. He was in the middle of the action during the eruption of Mount Pinatubo, the earthquake that devastated Baguio, the flooding of Ondoy, and most recently, the flooding caused by the rains last August. A lot of politicians try to get media mileage in the last calamity that hit us because they know that elections is right around the corner. But where were they during the other calamities? Again, Dick Gordon's genuine desire to serve shines during these events. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us all give a big, warm round of applause to the youngest Con delegate of 1971, former mayor of Olongapo City, founding chairman of the Subic Bay Metropolitan Authority, former tourism secretary, and now the current chairman and CEO of the Philippine Red Cross. Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Richard Vico Gordon.
Thank you very much, Dom, for that very, very wonderful and touching introduction. Let me just greet Ricky, President Ricky. And thank you for inviting here, Ricky, Season, and also Romy Recto. I hope he is more claro than the original Recto. We were talking about this in Takas earlier. Mr. Randy Ribasi, Cebu Chapter President, and all the other presidents, and past presidents, and the present board of trustees as well, and the candidates. Sana nag-toss-coin na lang kayo sa isa para lamig na lang. Para na lahat. Para tayong mga Pilipino, no? So, palagi laban ng laban. Tapos pagdating ito, walang nangyayari. Siguro pa may nangyayari dito, no? Good. I'm glad. I like people who are proud of their organization. Let me also call you my fellow citizens, because that's important. I think we tend to talk about friends, but pag sinabi mong citizens, you have a duty to your country. And most of the time, mga tao natin, alam lang nila yung karapatan, pero yung katupulan nakakalimutan. And the success of a country depends on really the ability of the leaders na palabasin yung galing ng kanilang mamamayan para tumulong, para buhatin ang ating bansa. Ang problema natin is nasanay na tayo doon sa handout. Ang kultura natin is palaasa. We take our hands off. We don't even analyze who we're going to vote for. Then we expect them to do wonders. And then we expect them to give us everything. Pati siguro digestion at sila pa magbibigay. Ngayon, puso-puso na lahat. Bigay ng bigay. But nobody ever make a demand for carrying the load of our country. May I ask the waiters kung pwede lang magkikatahimikan, because I don't read my speeches, so I would like to be able to concentrate. Pagsabi niyo lang magkikatahimikan. Thank you. See? You have to leave. Otherwise, you will be victimized. Alright. I thank you for inviting me here today at the 7th General Membership Meeting and Election Board of Trustees. I understand you changed your name to an institute, no longer just a society of people who are engaged in logistics or supply or purchasing, etc. And today, I would like to say that ganda yung topic na crisis and risk management. Kagad, sabi kanina ni Don, it will be about Red Cross, because we're always in crisis. Well, we're talking to a guy that has always been in crisis all his life. Crisis, when I went to school here in Manila, my parents were in long ago, and at that time it was a 6-hour drive. That's always a crisis for me. I can remember that. Crisis because your own father was assassinated after 3 attempts on his life, and government doesn't do anything for justice. That's a crisis. And of course, when you talk about taking risks, running for the Constitutional Convention while still a student of UP, everybody telling you, oh, that's a risk, tatalo ka lang dyan, huwag ka na pumasok. Repeating the old ways of saying, parang may bader tayo sa ating utak that the Filipino cannot really go on wanderlust. So I'm glad, Don, thank you for that. Very, very touching. I said touching because, to my mind, that is precisely the problem of our country. We don't know how to look back in the past. We cry, sabi nga ni Robert Frost, and we don't know how to look at the future with hope because of that. When I always make presentations, I always try to remind people about that because at one time in the past, kaya tayo hindi mo naman Kastila, probably because that the first Asian to beat the colonial invader was a future Filipino by the name of Lapu-Lapu, who was both Cebuano and Muslim. Pero ang tulo sa inyo ng mga private, grade 1 pa kayo, who killed Magellan. We made him a killer. Worse, we made him a fish. Lapu-Lapu. And dun lang, I always try to begin by looking at our culture. Ginapos na agad yung utak natin. And when they came back, yung turo, Kastila yung mga kapatutong bumasa. And they would rebel against us. That's just my theory. But anyway, to make a long story short, crisis and management. Risk-taking, yung mga yan, importante yan. Because through the years, you try to do things for your country, tatanggalin ka, like me. In my case, I was removed as mayor of Cory Aquino in 1986. I got back, then I was removed again. In the middle of that, coming back, there was the Cabanatuan crisis, or the Gupan, or the Baguio earthquake, where we went out of our circle of comfort to go and aid our people. And that's because my mother was 63 years at the Red Cross, and I was exposed to the Red Cross very young, so I've always been going out, not being comfortable in my own zone, where I don't have to do anything for others. And again, when you start thinking about being in the middle of Pinatubo, that's crisis. You're helping others, and then only to find out on the day it erupts, like Tayo Tataman, because there was a typhoon, and there was ash all over the place, and there were earthquakes, one after the other. And then, when you come out of it, you have one foot of ash everywhere. And you have to clean it up. And then, not less than a year later, the country says, remove the bases to your very well-qualified senators at the time. Alisin ang Amerikano. Of course, they're not going to tell you that now. Now they want the Americans to come back. In fact, right now there's a helicopter carrier of America in Subic. So, I can tell you many more things about crisis and this, all the disasters I've been to. Taking a risk on automated election. I was the only one at the time who sponsored that law. I didn't come here to talk about myself, but I just wanted to make sure you knew that life is about crisis and risk-taking. And you know that. I don't have to tell you that. And you are in the business of supply management. And what is supply? You know my 4 pillars there. I didn't have to look at you have to know where to purchase at the right price, where and which is closest, cost, order, and transit time, which means you have to know when it's going to arrive, and you have to know that there is a demand for your product, and that you have to come up and distribute it properly, and that you have to take care of the customer, and you have to take care of your own people. I mean, that's basic. But in this country, we don't see at our history and our geography. If you look at our country, we're in the middle of Asia. We're not in the Asian mainland. There's trouble between Cambodia and Thailand, and there's been one. Or Vietnam and China, and there's been one. China attacked Vietnam once upon a time, America was there. There's trouble within Korea, because they're in the same mainland. They're all be fighting. But we're an island archipelago, a nation. We should be prosperous, because wala tayong kaaway. Pero ang ginagawa natin, wala tayong nag-aaway. We have the longest insurrection, the longest crisis with the Muslims in this country, and we haven't been able to see our way through in making sure that we make the best out of it. But we're 3.5 hours away from China, 3.5 hours away from Japan, 3.5 hours away from Indonesia. Tayo unang dapat. Kaya ang US Navy, you want to learn about supply management, look at the American military. Subic was a logistics base. They bought here and they bought abroad, and they brought it to Subic, where they put up an airport and a seaport where they can deliver it right away. They were aware of what their consumers needed, and their customers were the Marines, the sailors of the United States Navy, the ships that needed water, fuel, food, medicine, everything, arms. That's a very great supply management operation. And when you come down to it, we should have learned, and I did learn. And that's why when we took over Subic, remember, we just got hit by Pinatubo. Giba kami. Baka I had to tell the people, you want to pray, but I want you to do your praying upstairs. Doon kayo sa bubong. Dala kayo ng pala, because ang ash bumabagsak, 5 inches of ash, plus water, because it was tight, there was a time kung babagsak yan. So, doon kayo magdasal habang kayo ay nag-worry, sabagat pag nagdasal kayo, magpapalay kayo ng Panginoon, magdala kayo ng pala, at magpapalay kayo ng Panginoon. Ay, nabuhay sila. To me, that's one way I can describe our feeling that we should use our Christianity to be able to make sure na hindi tayo nag-hope na